If you're in your 20s and 30s, you can only choose one type of exercise program, what would be perfect for you? What about if you're in your 60s? Healthy adult. What would be the one program that would be perfect for your type of body? Let's talk about that.
What's going on? TMI Fitness Nation. Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back. You know who it is. Coach Kareem back again with another episode of the TMI Fitness Podcast. And I hope y'all had a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. This one took a while to produce, but we back at it. Welcome back. This week's episode is based on age range. What would be the perfect exercise program for you specifically? This was actually a topic we did in class in grad school not very long ago, probably a couple weeks. Semester's over now, but it was one that I wanted to at least, present to the people because I figured it was a really interesting one. And the actual topic specifically says, if you had to choose one exercise, there's different modalities. You can lift, you can run, you can do flexibility, balance, all these different modalities of training. But based on your particular age range, if you were in your late 20s to early 30s, what would you do if you could only do one thing? Or what would you recommend as a coach if you could only choose one type of exercise for that particular age group of person? That was option A. And then option B is if the person, healthy adult, cleared by physician for exercise, everything like that, and they're older than 60, what would you choose for them? It was a really interesting one. So I wanted to talk about that one in this week's topic. So let's go ahead and get right to it. But actually, change of pace. First thing I wanted to do this week is present a quote. I want to start dropping quotes because I find them really cool, and they also help me out. Figured they'd help out the TMI family for those just trying to make it something to keep motivated or just something that's interesting. Thought-provoking quotes. So this week's quote is the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you consistently ask yourself. So something to keep in mind, because if you're constantly asking yourself, why is this happening to me? How could they do that to me? Why will this never work? Your mind has to respond with negative answers. You ask yourself a negative question, you'll come up with a negative response. But if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So change the questions you're asking yourself. Instead of saying, how could I ever achieve that? Say, where's the opportunity in this? What would I like to achieve? What did this teach me? Things like that. So I just thought that was pretty beneficial. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Change the quality of the questions you ask, and therefore you change the answers. So let's go ahead and get to this week's topic. So the first option, what stood out to me, it was tough to really decide, because when it comes to someone between the ages of like your 20s to like your early 30s, based on the research that I found, like ideally, I'm always going to lean more towards compound movements and just lifting weights in general, because that's my bread and butter. That's honestly what I prefer. But if you could only choose one type of thing to do, as beneficial as lifting is, I can't just say that thing. I do feel that all around, the best thing that somebody could do in that age range would be cardiovascular training. Specifically, high-intensity interval training. I feel that's the best way to get the broadest scope of full-body workout. You're improving your heart health while you're in that that age range. Also, I'm just saying, like a generalized, typical American adult between that range might have a desk job, because a lot of jobs these days are more sedentary. So, yes, lifting is optimal. Lifting helps. I can't call it optimal, but lifting is very beneficial to your strength and muscle development and all these things. But you can get comparable effects from cardio as well as the as well as the heart effects and respiratory, like strengthening from running. So I ended up choosing cardiovascular training, specifically high intensity interval training. The research said that although resistance training does equal, gives you moderate level of cardiovascular training on a whole has shown beneficial effects to cardiovascular health, aerobic work capacity. It's also a little bit easier to adhere to for someone who might live a busy lifestyle. And also, your research has actually shown that people that participated in cardiovascular training, it was like a 2008 study, indicated that high intensity interval training led to higher resting energy expenditure or overall fat oxidation. So what does that mean? Basically, you burn more sedentary. Pretty much. You burn more calories after you work out when you're actually at rest, which, for the most part, between those ranges, you want to just maintain overall health and well-being for your young adult life. And cardiovascular training will help with that. High-intensity cardiovascular training. Endurance-based training is good for cardiovascular health and heart health too, but high intensity can get the same effects, if not better, based on the research I found in one study. Another thing about doing high-intensity interval training, particularly, a 2011 study by Bartlett and others actually researched the effects of that interval-style training and perceived, quote-unquote, enjoyment of the training. And like I said before, in that particular study, the subjects actually enjoyed the moderate-intensity aerobic training less, and they enjoyed the high-intensity ones more because it was just greater variability and different things you could do. So it also led them to exercise adherence. So they just stuck with it a little bit longer because it was a little bit more fun than running 2 miles. So cardiovascular training for someone between the age of 20 to mid-30s, but specifically high-intensity interval cardiovascular training. That's my recommendation. So now we go to our second one here. This age group is those men and women of 60 and up. So 60 is not old these days, guys. The way medical health and diet nutrition ways are just going about and changing, 60 is not old. 60 is the new 40, and 40 is the new 20. So as long as you take care of yourself, eat properly, you're going to be very, very in shape at 60. So this is about those 60 and up. And if you had to recommend one particular type of exercise modality, what would it be? So I had to think about this one long and hard because cardio also was my first instinct because it's just all encompassing. But one thing I wanted to take in mind looking through the research was that this isn't just particularly 60, it's 60 and up. So we're anywhere from your 80s to 90s as well. So when you get older, over the age of at least 60 to 65, there's issues that come with bone mineral density. Frailty can be a thing if you're more sedentary. If the person has balance issues, we're talking about in your 70s, 80s, 90s, these can lead to falls, and that's just not beneficial to someone of that age because that can lead to blood clots, embolisms, and possibly even death. So you don't want someone to fall at that particular age range. So based on that research, I've really leaned towards flexibility training paired with balance training. But the only way to get both encompassed in one, yoga. I had to go with yoga. Not even necessarily hot yoga or Bikram or different types because I'm not too familiar with yoga, to be completely honest. But in a general sense, yoga would be optimal for those adults that are 60 plus. The reason being is as a human gets older, naturally muscle tissue, like I said, tends to atrophy due to a process known as sarcopenia. So it can be argued that the most beneficial form in the elderly would then be cardio or resistance training or even flexibility. But one study in 2014, researchers tested the impact of yoga programs in 39 individuals with the age range between 74, averaging the age range of about 74 years old, with a history of falling. That was a key thing. So they compared the findings of those who did yoga and then those who did things like Tai Chi and other forms, and they found out that yoga specifically actually improved their equilibrium in fall tests it also helped and improved the brain function, just like cognitive issues that those with dementia patients had in a 2013 study as well. So there was just a couple of research articles I'll post below if you guys are interested in actually reading it for yourself that talked about the benefits of yoga. And yoga is beneficial for anybody. I'm 29 going on 30, and I actually want to start getting into yoga just for the sake of flexibility's sake, because that's beneficial to anybody. But if I had to choose one particular type of modality, and that's the only thing you could do for the rest of your life, 60 plus, it'd be yoga. It really would. So that's what I would choose. 20 to 30, high intensity interval based cardio training. 60 plus, yoga. And that pretty much wraps this week's topic, guys. Wasn't too much to discuss, but I did want to touch on this because it was very interesting and I wanted to present it. But definitely give your interpretation of this. What were your thoughts on it? What would you recommend for someone between the ages of 20 to 30? And what would you recommend for someone 60 plus? Get your interpretation of it. Drop a comment below. So if the information I provided has been helpful, interesting, or funny, feel free to drop a like, comment, subscribe, and share. Leave a question below to be answered in the next podcast. That's pretty much it. But at the end of the day, what do I know? I'm just out here trying to make it. See you guys.